2 years after the bombardment of Earth, the Galactic Federation no longer existed. The war that had started as a rebellion for freedom had become a campaign of complete annihilation that reshaped the galaxy. Admiral Hyunwoo Kim stood on the bridge of the human flagship Retribution, watching the surrender ceremony of the last Federation holdouts. The Cathani delegation approached his ship with white flags and desperate pleas for mercy. But mercy was a concept that had died when Earth's cities burned. "Admiral," his communications officer reported, "the Cathani representatives are requesting permission to board and negotiate surrender terms." Hyunwoo looked at the data on his screen. The Cathani had been enthusiastic participants in the human slave trade. Their mining operations had worked thousands of humans to death in asteroid belt facilities. "Denied," he said simply. "Continue the bombardment." The Cathani ships were destroyed within minutes. It was the final act in a war that had eliminated 12 alien civilizations and fundamentally changed the balance of power in the galaxy. On the rebuilt Earth, So-Jin Park worked in her new laboratory as director of the Galactic Research Council. The planet had been restored to something even greater than it had been before the Federation's attack. Human engineering, combined with technology taken from conquered alien worlds, had created cities and facilities that surpassed anything the galaxy had ever seen. So-Jin was developing new technologies for the Terran Alliance, the government that had replaced the Federation. But unlike the Federation's focus on control and exploitation, the Alliance was built on a different principle: the absolute protection of member species from any form of oppression. "Director Park," her assistant said, "the representatives from the Kepler sector are here for their meeting." So-Jin nodded. The Kepler sector was one of many regions that had asked to join the Terran Alliance. After watching what happened to species that opposed humanity, most of the galaxy was very interested in becoming friends with Earth. In the Alliance Council chambers, Ambassador Tae-ho Lee was meeting with representatives from a newly discovered alien civilization. These beings had just developed faster-than-light travel and had encountered Alliance patrol ships on the edge of their territory. The aliens were tall and elegant, with silver skin and large eyes. Their leader spoke with obvious nervousness. "We are the Silvani people," their ambassador said. "We come in peace and hope to establish trade relations with your alliance." Tae-ho smiled, but it was not a warm expression. "Peace is something we take very seriously in the alliance. Tell me, do your people practice slavery of any kind?" "No," the Silvani ambassador said quickly. "We find such practices horrifying." "Good," Tae-ho replied, "because species that practice slavery tend to have very short relationships with humanity." The Silvani delegation had heard the stories of what happened to the Federation. Every species in the galaxy had heard those stories. They were told as warnings to anyone who might consider treating other beings as property. Of the 12 species that had originally ruled the Federation, 3 had been completely wiped out. Their homeworlds were now empty, their populations extinct, their civilizations erased from history. The Vaxans, Thrixians, and Cathani no longer existed anywhere in the galaxy. 4 other species had surrendered unconditionally after watching their neighbors disappear. These species now lived under direct human supervision. Their military forces disbanded and their governments restructured to prevent any future aggression. The remaining 5 Federation species had fled to unknown regions of space, abandoning their territories and populations in desperate attempts to escape human vengeance. Occasionally, Alliance patrol ships would encounter refugees from these species, still running from the war they had lost years ago. The new galactic order was very different from the Federation system. The Terran Alliance was built on voluntary membership and mutual protection. Species that joined the Alliance received advanced technology, military protection, and economic benefits. But membership came with one absolute requirement: no member species could practice slavery, genocide, or systematic oppression of any kind. The Alliance had been founded on the principle that what happened to humanity would never be allowed to happen again. Young-Soo Ryu, now head of Alliance weapons development, had created defense systems that made aggression between Alliance members impossible. Any species that tried to attack an Alliance member would face immediate retaliation from human military forces. These forces were now the most powerful military in the galaxy. Human ships and weapons were decades ahead of anything other species possessed. More importantly, Human soldiers fought with a dedication and ruthlessness that other species could not match. Kyungmi-oh had become the Alliance's chief strategic planner. Her job was to identify potential threats to Alliance security and develop responses to eliminate those threats before they could become dangerous. "We have reports of a species in the Outer Rim that practices ritual combat slavery," she reported to the Alliance leadership. "They force captured enemies to fight for entertainment. Send a diplomatic mission first," Admiral Hyun-woo ordered. "Give them one chance to change their ways voluntarily, and if they refuse, then they join the vaccines in extinction." This was the new reality of galactic politics. Humanity had become the dominant species not through conquest or oppression, but through the demonstrated ability to completely destroy anyone who threatened innocent people. The Alliance had grown to include over 200 species. Most had joined willingly, attracted by the technology, protection, and prosperity that came with Alliance membership. Others had joined after watching what happened to species that refused. But humanity's transformation had come at a cost. The people who had once been peaceful farmers, scientists, and artists had become something harder and more dangerous. They had learned that in a hostile galaxy, survival required the capacity for absolute destruction. Jae Sung-moon, now a general in the Alliance Defense Forces, understood this change better than most. "We didn't want to become the galaxy's executioners," he told new recruits during training. "But the universe made that choice for us when it decided to enslave our people. Now we make sure it never happens again." The galaxy had learned to respect humanity, but it was respect born from fear. Stories spread throughout space about what happened to species that crossed the humans. These stories kept the peace, but they also served as constant reminders of humanity's capacity for violence. When new alien civilizations made first contact with the Alliance, they were always given the same message: treat others with respect and dignity, and the Alliance would be your greatest ally. Practice oppression or slavery, and you would face the same fate as the Galactic Federation. Most species chose friendship. The final scene of humanity's transformation took place in the rebuilt city of Seoul on Earth. A monument stood where the city had been destroyed during the Federation bombardment. The monument was simple: a black stone wall with the names of every human who had died during the years of slavery. At the base of the wall, words were carved in every language spoken by Alliance members. Never again. Children from dozens of species came to visit the monument as part of their education. They learned about the price of oppression and the importance of protecting the innocent. But they also learned something else: that there were some lines that should never be crossed, and some species that should never be pushed too far. Humanity had answered oppression with extinction-level fury. The galaxy was safer for it, but it would never forget the lesson that Earth had taught them all. The orbital bombardment of Earth lasted for 6 hours. When it ended, 3 major cities were gone and millions of humans were dead. The Galactic Federation expected this attack to break human resistance completely. Instead, it created something the aliens had never seen before and could not understand. Across the galaxy, every human felt the same change at the same moment. The anger and sadness they had carried for years suddenly transformed into something cold and absolute. It was not just rage. It was the complete decision that their enemies did not deserve to exist. So Jin Park stood in her laboratory on Thrixian Prime as the news of Earth's bombardment reached her. The Thrixian scientists around her celebrated what they thought was the end of human resistance. They did not notice the change in Sojin's eyes. She looked at the alien equipment around her with new understanding. For years, she had been learning their technology to help the resistance. Now she saw it differently. Every piece of equipment, every weapon, every ship design, all of it could be turned into tools for complete destruction. So Jin activated a hidden communication device. "This is Phoenix 7 to all networks," she said calmly. "Earth has been attacked. Begin extinction protocols." The message went out to human resistance cells across the galaxy, but these were no longer resistance cells. They had become something much more dangerous. On Luna Colony, Hyun-woo Kim received Sojin's message. He looked at the vaccine prisoners his forces had captured during their rebellion. Before the bombardment of Earth, these aliens had been valuable sources of information. Now they were just enemies that needed to be eliminated. "No prisoners," Hyun-woo told his team. From this point forward, we show them exactly what extinction looks like. The aliens had always believed that humans were emotional and irrational. They thought human anger made them weak and easy to control. They were about to discover that human emotions could be the most dangerous force in the galaxy. Young-Soo Ryu had been working on weapons technology for the Resistance. He had been a peaceful researcher before the invasion, someone who studied plants and hoped to help feed hungry people. The bombardment of Earth finished his transformation into something else entirely. "We're done playing by their rules," he told his team of human scientists. "They want to see what humans can do when we stop holding back? Let's show them." Young-Soo's weapons research took a new direction. Instead of building tools for rebellion, he began creating instruments of species-level destruction. The alien technology that had been used to enslave humanity was about to become the foundation for weapons that could eliminate entire alien civilizations. Kyung-mi coordinated the new war effort from a hidden command center that had been built inside a captured Federation facility. She had been a teacher before the invasion, someone who cared about helping children learn and grow. Now she planned military operations designed to ensure that no alien species would ever threaten human children again. Her strategic plans were no longer about liberation or freedom. They were about complete annihilation of the Federation and any species that had supported human enslavement. "New mission parameters," she announced to resistance cells across the galaxy. "We are not fighting to free ourselves anymore. We are fighting to make sure this never happens to anyone ever again." The change in human tactics was immediate and terrifying. Before the bombardment, human forces had tried to minimize casualties among alien civilians. They had captured enemy soldiers and treated prisoners according to international law. After Earth was attacked, human forces began operating with a single principle. Any species that had participated in human enslavement would be eliminated completely. Jae Sung-moon led the first of these new operations. His commando team infiltrated a Thrixian research station, where experiments had been performed on human subjects. In the old rebellion, they would have captured the facility and arrested the scientists. Instead, Jae-sung's team destroyed the entire station and everyone on it. They left behind a simple message. This is what happens to species that hurt humans. The Federation leaders were confused by the change in human behavior. They had expected the bombardment of Earth to make humans more desperate and easier to defeat. Instead, human forces had become more organized and far more dangerous. General Vorthak studied reports of human attacks with growing concern. "They're not fighting like rebels anymore," he told the council. "These are military operations designed for complete destruction." Chief Scientist Zilix was even more worried. "Our analysis shows that human forces are no longer trying to capture our technology. They're building their own weapons and they're more advanced than anything we have." This was true. Wu Jin-nam and his team of human engineers had spent years studying Federation technology. Now they were creating ships and weapons that were not just equal to alien equipment, but far superior. Human-built starfighters were faster and more maneuverable than anything in the Federation fleet. Human weapons hit harder and had longer range than alien guns. Most importantly, human ships were designed by people who understood that this war would only end when their enemies were completely destroyed. The first major test of these new human weapons came when a Federation fleet tried to attack the Luminary homeworld. The aliens expected an easy victory against their former subjects. Instead, they found a defense fleet that included both Luminary ships and new human-built fighters. The battle lasted less than 2 hours and ended with the complete destruction of the Federation force. Dong Hyun-yu commanded the human fighters in that battle. His pilots moved with a precision and ruthlessness that shocked even their Luminary allies. "Target all Federation ships," he ordered. "No survivors, no prisoners. Show them what happens when they threaten our friends." But the most significant change was happening on the political level. Ji-hai Choi had spent years building alliances with oppressed alien species. Now those alliances were becoming something much more powerful. Instead of just fighting for freedom from Federation control, the allied species were working together to build a new galactic order. But this new order would be led by humans, and it would be founded on a simple principle. Never again would anyone be allowed to enslave or abuse other species. The Federation's member species began to realize that they were not fighting a rebellion anymore. They were facing a war of extermination led by a species that had decided their enemies did not deserve to exist. Some alien species tried to surrender or negotiate peace. But humans no longer accepted surrenders from species that had participated in the slave trade. The time for mercy had ended when Earth was bombarded. Mina Kang's military doctrine became the standard for all human forces. Leave nothing that can rebuild. Show them what extinction feels like. The gentle giants, who had been peaceful for thousands of years, embraced this new approach. They had seen what the Federation did to species that could not defend themselves. Under human leadership, they became a force of absolute destruction against their former oppressors. The Federation realized too late that they had made a terrible mistake. By bombing Earth, they had not broken human resistance. They had transformed humanity from a species fighting for freedom into a species committed to the complete annihilation of their enemies. The galaxy was about to learn what happened when you pushed humans beyond their breaking point. The rebellion began at exactly the same moment across 17 star systems. It was not random violence or desperate acts of sabotage. It was a perfectly coordinated military campaign that caught the Galactic Federation completely off guard. On Luna Colony, Hyun-Woo Kim gave the signal that had been planned for months. Hidden weapons appeared from secret storage places throughout the mining facility. Human workers who had seemed broken and defeated suddenly moved with military precision. The Vaxxan guards were strong and well-armed, but they had grown lazy after years of controlling helpless slaves. They never expected their human prisoners to fight back with stolen Federation weapons and careful planning. Hyun-Woo led his team through the complex, securing key positions and freeing other human prisoners. Within 2 hours, Luna Colony was under human control. The aliens who had tortured and enslaved humans for years were now locked in their own prison cells. But Luna Colony was just one small part of the larger plan. At the same time, Tae-ho Lee was leading a massive assault on the main Federation naval base at Proxima Centauri. The attack force included not only human fighters but also luminary volunteers and gentle giant allies. The Federation had never seen anything like it. Ships that looked like modified alien fighters moved with impossible speed and agility. Human pilots flew in ways that broke every rule of alien military doctrine. They took risks that no rational alien would consider, and somehow made those risks work. Dong Hyun-Yu had been a commercial pilot before the invasion. Now he commanded a squadron of human starfighters that moved like a deadly swarm through space. His pilots had trained in secret for 3 years, learning to fly stolen and modified alien ships. The Federation pilots were skilled, but they followed predictable patterns that human strategists had studied carefully. Dong Hyun's fighters attacked from unexpected angles and used tactics that seemed impossible to alien minds. "All units, remember the plan," Dong Hyun said over his radio. "Hit hard, move fast, and show them what humans can do when we fight together." The space battle lasted only 4 hours, but when it ended, the Federation's main naval base was destroyed. Hundreds of alien warships were either captured or turned into floating wreckage. On 3 different worlds, Tae-ho's ground forces were simultaneously liberating major slave camps. These operations were led by Mina Kang's carefully planned strategies that used human adaptability to overcome superior alien numbers and technology. The aliens had always assumed that different species could not work together effectively. They were wrong. Human commanders coordinated attacks that included luminary infiltration specialists, gentle giant heavy assault troops, and human tactical teams. Hae-Won-shin was a communications specialist who had spent years learning to use alien technology better than the aliens themselves. She coordinated all 17 simultaneous attacks using the Federation's own communication networks. "Phoenix base to all units," she broadcast. "All targets are secured. The wildfire has begun." But the most shocking part of the rebellion was not the military attacks. It was the political revolution that Ji-Hae Choi had been preparing for years. 3 entire Federation member species suddenly announced that they were leaving the Alliance and joining the human-led resistance. The Kepler Mining Guild, the Antares Trade Consortium, and the Rigel Defense Pact all declared their independence from Federation control. These species had been secretly working with human diplomats for months. They had seen how humans treated their allies with respect and equality, which was very different from the Federation's system of domination and exploitation. The Federation's ruling council was in complete panic. They had lost major military assets, important industrial facilities, and 3 member species in a single day. Even worse, they were facing an enemy they did not understand. General Vorthak could not believe what he was seeing in the battle reports. How is this possible? Our intelligence said the human resistance was nearly extinct. Chief Scientist Zilix was studying data from the attacks with growing concern. These are not desperate slaves fighting for survival. This is organized military action with advanced technology and perfect coordination across multiple star systems. The Melody delegate was even more disturbed. She had been trying to use her telepathic abilities to understand the human attackers, but what she found in their minds frightened her. "These humans are not afraid," she reported to the council. "Their minds are filled with anger and determination, but also joy. They are enjoying this fight." Council leader Mortox realized that the Federation faced a crisis unlike anything they had seen before. "How many ships and facilities have we lost?" 17 major installations destroyed or captured, General Vorthak reported. "Over 300 ships lost with minimal damage to the rebel forces. And the attacks are continuing." The Federation's response was swift and brutal. If they could not control the rebellion through normal military action, they would destroy its source. General Vorthak ordered the orbital bombardment of Earth's major cities. "If we destroy their homeworld, the human rebellion will collapse," he declared. "No species can continue fighting after seeing their home planet burned." The Federation fleet moved toward Earth with enough firepower to turn the planet's surface into molten glass. The alien commanders were confident that this would end the human problem once and for all. They were about to make their second major mistake. On Earth, Xiangho Bei and his demolition teams had been preparing for this possibility. Hidden throughout the planet were defense systems that the aliens had never detected. When the Federation fleet arrived, they found Earth ready for them. But more importantly, the bombardment of Earth triggered something that the aliens had never seen before and did not understand. Humans had a special reaction to threats against their homeworld. When Earth was attacked, every human in the galaxy felt something change inside them. The anger and determination that had driven the rebellion suddenly became something much more dangerous. So-Jin Park felt it in her laboratory on Thrixian Prime. Hyunwoo Kim experienced it in the captured Luna colony. Taeho Lee and every human fighter felt the same shift in their thoughts and emotions. The Federation had just awakened something that would haunt them for the rest of their short remaining existence. They had triggered humanity's extinction-level fury. The rebellion was over. The War of Annihilation had begun. 3 years had passed since the Galactic Federation declared their complete victory over humanity. The alien leaders were confident that human resistance was finished. They were wrong. Deep in the mining tunnels of Luna Colony, Hyunwoo Kim worked his shift like always. But now he was doing much more than just mining titanium. Hidden in the rock walls were small communication devices that Woo Jin Nam had built, using stolen alien parts. These devices connected Hyunwoo to resistance fighters across 12 different star systems. The network had grown far beyond what the aliens imagined was possible. Humans were not the only species suffering under Federation rule. The artistic luminari had been forced to create propaganda for their masters. The peaceful, gentle giants of Kepler 442b were used as living construction equipment. Dozens of other species lived as slaves or second-class citizens under Federation control. Hyunwoo had spent 3 years carefully making contact with sympathetic members of these oppressed species. Many of them were ready to fight back, but they needed leadership and coordination. The humans were providing both. In her laboratory on Thrixian Prime, So-Jin Park had made an incredible discovery. While pretending to work on alien experiments, she had been secretly studying human brain patterns. What she found changed everything. Humans were different from every other known species in a fundamental way. Most aliens were highly specialized. Vaxans were excellent warriors but poor at complex thinking. Thrixians were brilliant scientists but physically weak. Melody were powerful telepaths but could not survive in most environments. Humans, however, could adapt and excel in multiple areas at the same time. A human could be a skilled fighter, a clever scientist, and a talented artist all at once. This flexibility made humans incredibly dangerous when properly motivated. Even more important was So-Jin's discovery about human emotions. Other species felt anger, fear, and protective instincts, but not like humans did. When humans truly cared about something, their emotional responses could push them far beyond their normal limits. The Federation had seen this as a weakness to exploit. Sojin realized it was actually a weapon that could be turned against their captors. She had also been secretly studying alien technology and biology. The Thrixians never suspected that their human lab assistant was learning everything about their weapons, ships, and weaknesses. Sojin now knew more about Federation technology than many alien engineers. On Earth, Taeho Lee had transformed from a desperate rebel into a master coordinator. His network now included resistance cells in over 40 human settlements. But more importantly, he had established contact with alien resistance groups on 17 different worlds. Ji-Hae Choi had used her diplomatic skills to create a complex communication system. Messages traveled between worlds using modified alien communication equipment. The Federation's own technology was being used against them, and they did not even know it. Wu Jin Nam had become the rebellion's chief engineer. He worked with a team of brilliant humans who had been studying alien technology for years. They had not just learned how to use Federation equipment, they had figured out how to improve it. In hidden workshops across the galaxy, human engineers were building weapons and ships that combined the best of alien technology with human innovation. The results were impressive. Human-built fighters were faster and more maneuverable than anything in the Federation fleet. Mina Kang had developed new military strategies that took advantage of human adaptability. While alien military tactics were predictable and specialized, human forces could change their approach quickly to confuse and overwhelm their enemies. The Resistance had also gained two important allies among the alien species. The Luminari were artists and philosophers who had grown tired of creating propaganda for the Federation. Their leader, a being named Veltar, had made secret contact with human rebels. The gentle giants were even more valuable allies. Despite their peaceful nature, they were incredibly strong and had access to important industrial facilities. Their representative, who called herself Mountain Friend, had been meeting secretly with Taeho's agents for months. Both species had been inspired by human determination and were ready to risk everything for freedom. The rebellion's greatest advantage was that the Federation did not take them seriously. Alien intelligence reports showed only small groups of desperate humans causing minor problems. The Federation leaders believed their security forces could handle any threat from primitive species. They had no idea that the Resistance was actually a galaxy-wide network of dozens of species working together under human leadership. Young-Soo Ryu had once been a peaceful researcher studying alien plants. 3 years of slavery had changed him completely. Now he led a team of human scientists who were developing new types of weapons. They had discovered that certain human emotions, especially protective rage, could be channeled through alien psychic technology to create devastating effects. Kyungmi-Oh was a former teacher who had become one of the rebellion's top strategic planners. She coordinated intelligence gathering across multiple star systems and had developed detailed plans for simultaneous attacks on Federation targets. Jae Sung-moon had been a businessman before the invasion. Now he was a commando leader who specialized in infiltrating alien facilities and stealing technology. His team had successfully penetrated some of the Federation's most secure installations. All across the galaxy, the Resistance was preparing for something the Federation had never faced before. A coordinated uprising of multiple species working together with precision and determination. The aliens continued to underestimate their slaves. They saw only what they expected to see, broken people struggling to survive under their rule. They missed the growing network of communication, the hidden weapons factories, and the spreading spirit of rebellion. In the deepest tunnels of Earth, in the hidden corners of alien worlds, and in the hearts of enslaved peoples everywhere, the same message was spreading. The ember still burns. Prepare for the wildfire. The Federation had 3 years to notice what was happening. They wasted that time celebrating their victory and planning to expand their slave operations. Soon they would learn the price of their arrogance. The galaxy was about to discover that enslaving humanity was not a victory. It was the worst mistake the Federation had ever made. Hyunwoo Kim wiped the sweat from his forehead as he swung the heavy mining tool against the rock wall. The titanium ore sparkled in the artificial light of Luna Colony's deep tunnels. His back ached from 12 hours of non-stop work, but he knew better than to slow down. The Vaxxon guards would use their shock weapons on anyone who did not meet their daily quota. Around him, dozens of other humans worked in silence. They had learned that talking too much brought unwanted attention from their alien masters. Hyunwoo remembered when he was a commander in Earth's defense force. Those days felt like a lifetime ago, before the 12 alien species came to Earth with their advanced ships and weapons. The aliens called themselves the Galactic Federation. They said they were bringing peace and order to the universe. What they really brought was slavery. Humans were now nothing more than workers and test subjects for the alien races that ruled the galaxy. On the other side of the mining complex, Sojin Park stood in a sterile white laboratory. She wore a thin medical gown that did little to keep her warm. The Thrixian scientists around her spoke in their clicking language as they studied the data from their latest experiments on human subjects. Sojin understood more of their language than they knew, but she kept this secret to herself. The Thrixians were one of the smartest alien races in the Federation. They had long, thin bodies and large heads filled with complex brains. They found humans interesting because human bodies could adapt to many different environments. This made humans perfect for dangerous experiments that might kill other species. Sojin had been a brilliant scientist on Earth before the invasion. Now she was forced to help the aliens study her own people. Every day she watched her fellow humans suffer in the name of alien science. She hated every moment of it, but she had learned to hide her anger behind a calm face. Back on Earth, in the ruins of what used to be Seoul, Tae-ho Lee moved carefully through the broken streets. Most of the great cities had been destroyed during the invasion. The aliens had left just enough buildings standing to house their human workers. The rest was rubble and ash. Tae-ho was young, barely 25, but the war had aged him beyond his years. He led one of the few remaining groups of free humans on Earth. They lived in the underground tunnels and sewers, always moving to avoid the alien patrols that hunted them. His small band of rebels included Ji-hai Choi, a former diplomat who now coordinated messages between different resistance groups. There was also Woo Jin Nam, an engineer who spent his time trying to understand alien technology, and Mina Kang, who had been a military strategist before the invasion. The group had just received disturbing news. Several human settlements had been completely emptied overnight. The aliens were expanding their breeding programs, treating humans like cattle to be raised for work and experimentation. Far away from Earth, on the capital world of Nexus Prime, the ruling council of the Galactic Federation was meeting. The council chamber was enormous, designed to accommodate the different sizes and needs of the 12 member species. The Vaxons were the military power of the Federation. They stood nearly 3 meters tall with thick armor-like skin and powerful muscles. Their leader, General Vorthak, was pleased with the human slave operations. "The humans have proven even more useful than we expected," he said in his deep, rumbling voice. "They work harder than most species and can survive in environments that would kill others. We should increase the breeding programs." The Thrixian representative, Chief Scientist Zilix, nodded his large head in agreement. "Our research shows that humans have unusual brain patterns. They can learn multiple skills at the same time. Unlike most species that specialize in one area, this makes them valuable for many different types of work." The Melody delegate floated in her special chamber filled with purple gas. Her species communicated through telepathy and could influence the thoughts of other beings. "The human minds are interesting," she said, her words appearing directly in the thoughts of the other council members. "They have strong emotions that can be useful for motivation. Fear and desperation make them work very hard." Other species around the table shared similar reports. The Cathani praised human endurance. The Zorloks were impressed by human ability to work in dangerous conditions. The Nexari found humans easy to control with the right combination of punishment and small rewards. Council leader Mortox, a Gathron with blue-green skin and 4 arms, listened to all the reports. "It seems the human domestication program is a complete success. We have turned a potential military threat into a valuable resource for the Federation." "What about the resistance groups on Earth?" asked the Drell representative. His species looked like large insects with complex compound eyes. General Vorthak made a dismissive gesture. "A few thousand humans hiding in ruins. They are no threat to us. Our sensors show their numbers getting smaller every month. Soon they will all be captured or dead." The council members felt very confident. They had conquered many worlds and enslaved many species over the centuries. Humans seemed no different from the others. They had superior technology and overwhelming numbers. What could a few primitive humans do against the might of the entire Galactic Federation? But they were wrong about one important thing. The reports coming from their outer colonies were not as positive as they believed. Several mining operations had gone completely silent. Alien outposts near human-populated worlds had stopped sending their regular communications. Ships sent to investigate these silent bases never returned. The Federation leaders dismissed these problems as equipment failures or accidents. They could not imagine that the broken humans they had enslaved were capable of organized resistance. This was their first mistake. On Luna Colony, Hyunwoo continued his mining work, but his eyes held a spark that his alien masters had not noticed. In the Thrixian laboratory, Sojin memorized every piece of alien technology she could see. In the ruins of Earth, Taeho and his team planned their next moves. The aliens thought they had won completely. They believed humans were just another conquered species, useful only as tools and test subjects. They celebrated their easy victory and made plans to expand their human slave operations. They had no idea that their victory was about to become their greatest nightmare. The humans were learning, adapting, and preparing. The galaxy was about to discover what happened when you pushed humanity too far.